Do you want to know some habits that will make your Arduino projects much better? In this video, we're going to be going over 9 habits to help you make your Arduino projects much better. I'll be explaining in detail about these habits and why they are useful. And so without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing is we need to define our pin numbers as constants. The first thing overall is that we need to put these pin numbers into variables. That's important. And we always need to put them on the top of our code so that we know the pins that are inputs or outputs of the Arduino. And then also with that is we want to make sure they are set to constants. This helps us so that we cannot change this variable. We cannot change this value once it's already set. So this means that we won't get confused by changing this variable's value, because your Arduino IDE will give us an error saying this has been changed. It helps us become aware of this issue before we even upload to the Arduino. And so the next habit is using meaningful variable names. This is important so that we know what the variable is holding. So maybe, for example, if we have a variable that's holding the brightness of an LED, we can do LED val, short for LED value. So it's important to do this for any type of a variable to make your code more readable. And these variables can't be very long. They must be like close to a word short or even shorter. But of course they need to be understandable as well to you and to others. Okay, so now the next habit is commenting your code. This is very important whenever you have parts of your code that you think you may find confusing in the future, or that someone else may find confusing. So for example, here's this code. So basically this is just it with the comments. As you can see, this is using the RC522 module. I just want to show you that we have comments here. So for example, whenever we want to store data into the card or the key fob, we want to specify which block of storage do we want to write to, and maybe someone won't know this, so we say the block used to store the counter. And so this helps us so people can understand a little bit of what this variable is doing, because it's kind of left in the dark of what this variable is for. And the same right here, we have this comment. This code right here is just to make a default key that the module accepts, and this is the default key. And this is telling us this is what it's doing. It's just to say that it's setting this default key so that you can understand what this for loop is doing. Same right here, we say wait for a card. So here we just wait for a card to show up. And the next thing we say, just authenticate the block, seeing if we are allowed to go into this block. That's what this code does. And so as you can see, every single point of this code, the points where it may be kind of confusing, they're commented. Next is keep your wiring organized. And so when you're making circuits, it's important to actually follow the color code that we have in electronics. And this just helps it so other people can understand your circuit, but also helps you so you can debug your circuit if there are any problems with it in the future. And so here's the circuit right here. Nothing is color coded at all, and it's kind of confusing on which wires are which. You can see basically by seeing where they're connected. But if we go to this circuit right here, you can see it's a lot more clearer which pins are which, and are they holding positive, negative, or even data. For example, positive power has all the red wires. The negative wires are the black wires. They can also be blue as well. Then the data wires, like just transferring digital signals, these can be green. And so it's important to do this, or we may think it's not important. It is very important, especially once we get our projects really, really big. Habit 5 is avoid using delay. Now you may be wondering, like, what in the world? Like, delay is one of the really common command that we use in programming. Of course, in small code, maybe this is the case. You could do this. You can use delay whenever you want. But the thing is, once your code gets really big, it's important to actually stop using delays, because what a delay does is it basically stops your entire code from running. It stops and waits for that time to pass. Although maybe a user could be pressing a button, or maybe you should be blinking an LED at a really rapid speed. So it's important that we have delays in our code, but other pieces of code are running while this code is waiting to be ran. And how we do that is with the millis function. The millis function tells us how long the Arduino has been running in milliseconds. And so one block of code could be waiting to run, and another block of code could be running really quickly with the millis function. The millis function does not cause the code to ever stop. The code continues running as fast as it can. Then when it comes to time to run a piece of code, it goes ahead and runs that code. So here's the piece of code here for an example. This code right here is blinking 2 LEDs, one LED on pin 13, one LED on pin 12. These 2 LEDs are blinking at different speeds. The LED that is connected to pin 13 is blinking on or off every 1 second. The LED on pin 12 is turning on or off every 250 milliseconds. So I'm not going to explain too much about this, but we just set up the pins, then we set up the unsigned longs. We have 2 of these because each one is for each LED. So this is the last millis. This is going to be holding the last time that the LED turned on or off in milliseconds. And then we have DT1 and 2. These are basically how long the LEDs are going to be waiting until they switch on or off. Then we have LED state. These are just the states, either if these LEDs are going to be on or off. Then we just set up the pin modes. Then we go into the if statement. Both of these if statements pretty much exactly the same. Just the difference is one's for LED 1 and one's for LED 2. So basically we just come in here and see how much time has passed, and we see if that's greater or equal to DT1, and then we go ahead and flip the LED state right here, which means that whatever the current LED state is at is going to be the opposite. So basically we're going to continually blink the LED. Then we're just going to digital write, and we're going to give it the LED state. Then we do last millis 1, and we just equal to millis, so we know the next time when we should come into this if statement again. And same thing with this if statement, but it's just for LED 2. If you want to know more about the millis function, I have a link down below that you can go to, and it's all in this video explains all about the millis function. Which means number 6 is using the serial monitor for debugging. I can't tell you how much I use the serial monitor to debug my code. It's pretty much every single time I make a project, I always just define serial monitor at first, because I always have a problem in my code that I have to fix, and I always use serial monitor. Because when the code is uploaded to the Arduino, there's no errors, but your code is not acting right. How can you debug the code? There's no error messages that you can look at and understand the problem. The only thing you can go to find the problem is go to the serial monitor, and based on what is not acting right, you can have speculations on what could be wrong, and you use the serial monitor to figure out exactly what's wrong. So basically, you can understand where the Arduino is at in the code and when it gets into that point. Habit 7, building projects incrementally. So basically what this means is that we build projects by adding a little bit at a time. So basically we may first add some buttons to our project. Then next we may want to add an LCD display, code the LCD display and put it into our full project. Then after we know that, and that all works, then we can add like a temperature sensor. And this temperature sensor, we can incorporate it into our code. We just add everything step by step. This helps us so that when we add a piece of code or even a sensor and there's a problem, we most likely know where that problem is. That's with the code or the sensor that we have connected in our project. We know that's most likely where the issue is. But if we add everything together all at once and we make the project all at once, we know it's somewhere in the code, but we don't know where. And most likely you will have all these problems to fix, when it's just better to incrementally build your projects and figure out the problems one by one. Creating reasonable functions is habit 8, and why we need to do this is because maybe there are parts of your code that are repetitive. Also functions help you so that you can group your code up into blocks. For example, maybe there's a function that does everything with the toggle switch, so there's a button in your circuit, and this function does everything with that button to make it a toggle switch. But here is one example, and this is an example of the code that we saw with the millis function. Now this code is maybe the same size, but as you can see, now our code is a little bit more organized. So basically what we do is we just go ahead and define our pins. We put them in the struct because we have to give these variables to the function. And we can't be giving a function all these different types of variable types, so we have to put them in a struct. And then we go ahead and set up our variables right here. And as you can see, it's a little bit different now. We're just using the struct. And then we go into the void loop and we call these functions. And we just give them LED1 and LED2, basically giving the function access to all of these variables right here. And as you can see, we just go ahead and do my LED, which is basically saying this is the variable type that we are returning. Then we have LED blink, which is the name of the function. It's important to make sure you name the function according to what this block of code is doing. So I just do blink LED because this statement is basically blinking the LED. So that's why I named it that. And then we have my LED, which is the type of struct that it's accepting, and we just do LED. So then we go ahead and do exactly what I explained before. So this code is much more organized and much more straight to the point. Habit number 9. This habit is saving working versions of your code. Whenever you are building a project that is really big, maybe this project will take a couple days for you to build, or maybe a couple hours, who knows. But whenever you are building your code and you got to a point where your code is structured really well, and then maybe you have a couple components, maybe a couple sensors working well with this code, but now you want to update this code, you want to add more features to it, it's best to take this working version that you have and copy it and put it somewhere else, and so that you can go testing with this code again and not have to be worried about ruining the code. Because if you do, you're gonna have to write the code like all over again. This is really important because I've been here so many times where I forgot to copy my code and I literally had to rewrite the code over again, or large chunks of my code over again. And guys, if there's any of these habits that you are currently doing now, maybe you can comment down below, tell me what habits you are doing now, and maybe what habits you thought were interesting in this video. If you like this video, guys, consider giving this video a like. Also, again, comment down below if you even have any questions, and consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.